Welcome to This is USG, a video podcast presented by the universities at Shady Grove. 9 universities, 1 campus, great results. I'm M Khademian, Executive Director of USG. Every special place, every special institution has a great story and great people behind it. USG's special people and special story are the Kendall family. Cliff and Camille Kendall's dedication and support to USG can be seen all around us here in our beautiful buildings, but most importantly, in the opportunities of students to pursue a degree and a successful career, many first generation and many from underrepresented communities. Tonight, we have the wonderful opportunity to learn more about this special family and their impact on USG, the program itself, and a student who has benefited from the Kendall Scholarships as well. Tonight, we have the great privilege of introducing Clark and Craig Kendall, sons of Cliff and Camille Kendall, and accomplished business leaders in the financial world. We also have Gloria, Kalotra, Assistant Director of the USG Center for Student Engagement and Financial Resources. And we have Juanita Benavides, former Kendall Scholar at USG and alumna of Towson University Elementary Education and Special Education Program, and a graduate from 2019. So welcome everybody, it's great to see you all. I'm going to ask each of you to do a little bit of self-introduction so that the people watching can get to know you. Clark, let's start with you.
Craig is my oldest brother. We have 2 other brothers, Kurt and Charlie. I'm the only one who actually stayed in Montgomery County. 2 of my brothers moved over to Virginia, and we've got 1 living up in Frederick. But I own and run an investment management firm here in Rockville called Kendall Capital. We all went to Wooten High School, Ritchie Park Elementary School, Frost Junior High School. So we were all brought up and raised right in this area. I live here with my wife, Diane Kendall. She went to Churchill. We both are Montgomery County students, and all 4 of our children went to public schools right here in Montgomery County and have gone off to do wonderful things.
Fantastic. Thanks, Clark. Craig, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Craig Kendall. I'm the oldest of the 4 boys, and yes, I live over here in Virginia. They kicked me out of Maryland on good behavior, but I'm actually the very first student that received a Kendall Scholarship because I was the oldest. I was the first one to go to college of the 4 boys, and so Mom and Dad said, "Go get a good education," and they paid for me. So I'm literally the very first Kendall Scholarship alumni and very appreciative of it. I'm here in Virginia. We ran a boutique CPA firm, and then at one time we were running an alternative investment firm, a commodity firm, slowing my business down. And Mom and Dad have been so influential. You know, whenever we'd meet with them, they would talk about what the joy was that they received in giving back to others. And they really instilled that in each of the sons and now each of the grandsons, the importance of giving back to the community. And I'm just trying to be a little mom and dad now. I'm trying to help the community in whatever way I can. So we're trying to do some community service work. And so that's my 30-second introduction.
That's great. And we'll talk more and more about that paying forward and that philosophy that's so foundational here at Shady Grove as well. Thanks. Gloria, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Gloria Kalotra, Assistant Director with USG Center for Student Engagement and Financial Resources. We also go by CSEF, one of the 5 departments under the Student and Academic Services that work together to assist undergraduate and graduate students from our partner institutions. I have been fortunate to manage the awarding and selection process of all scholarship programs for many years since joining the USG family in 2005.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. We'll learn more all about that as we go along tonight as well. And Juanita, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Juanita Benavides. I'm a first generation graduate of any university, really. I'm the middle child of my family, so but I'm the best one, I think. Where was I? I am so sorry. I grew up in MCPS, grew up going in Gaithersburg, really. Ended up going to Montgomery College, where I met Gloria and her beautiful soul, and ended up coming upon this great scholarship and this great family. And I finished my associates at MC, and then went to USG and graduated with my degree at USG, and now teach in still Montgomery County at a school down the street from my house. So it's been a pretty nice full circle journey that I've had, and I really appreciate every step of it.
What a great story, Juanita. We'll talk more about the impact of the scholarship as well on your career and life. So thanks so much. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time to introduce yourselves. Craig and Clark, let's start with you. You know, your parents were have such a huge impact on USG. Could you tell us a little bit about the story, how they came to be involved in Montgomery County and in education? Early supporters of bringing four-year university programs and ultimately your father serving as one of the founders of USG. Could you tell us a little bit about that story? I think that would be great for people to hear.
Do I go?
Yeah.
I'll tell a little bit. I think what's so neat about Mom and Dad's story is they both grew up in Washington, D.C. My mother was valedictorian from her high school, and her father, my grandfather, only had a 6th, 7th grade education. He was a smart man and worked as a plumber, many of the government buildings around Washington. My father grew up as a single mother parent. Father was not in the picture. But they both ended up going to Wilson's Teachers College. Wilson's Teachers College was like the MC back in the 1940s of Washington, D.C. Eventually, UDC, Wilson's Teachers College turned into UDC. Mom and Dad went there. Mom really wanted to be a teacher, and Dad eventually didn't want to be a teacher, but transferred to the University of Maryland. But what I tell you this story because Mom had a scholarship. Somebody that she didn't know paid for her tuition, and it was a modest tuition, but she got to fulfill her dream, and it was a guidance counselor that really steered her in the right direction. Dad will tell you, he goes, I wasn't that smart to be able to get a scholarship, and he had to work down in Union Station, down by the Capitol, and his job from midnight to 8 in the morning was taking chalk and marking the various rail cars as to where they were supposed to go up and down the East Coast. It was a very difficult job. You know, we used to always laugh because it took him 5 years to complete his college. It was not a fun experience for him at all. But he realized, and even though he too was the first to go to college, how important a college education was. So so Craig was the first scholarship recipient, and each one of us, he really impressed for us to go to college. And it was almost funny. He was adamant, like he didn't want any of us to actually have to work. He wanted us to work during the summertime. And we all had, difficult jobs during the summertime that made us appreciate what a college education was all about. But he really instilled upon us to have that education. And then when he went through the opportunity of, it was 1998 when he was 68, he wanted to get more involved in education. And when he ran his business here in Montgomery County, back then it was called CDSI, Computer Data Systems, having educated employees and the opportunity for people to grow on an academic basis was very difficult. And at the time, there was really no higher education in Montgomery County. So he really spent his time and energies during the 90s to put together higher education here in Montgomery County. So people didn't have to travel to Baltimore, to DC, or down to College Park. So that was his passion. He taught a little bit And it really made him respect how difficult it is to be a professor at the higher education. There is a lot of work involved, not just teaching the class, but both before and after. But he never forgot that passion of understanding how difficult it can be to be that first person in your family to have a college education. And he talked to Craig and Kurt and Charlie, all four of us, many times. He says, I'm not going to leave you with a pot full of money. I'm going to help you create your own success. But he goes, for me, we can play such a multiplier effect by creating scholarships and education for other people to create their own success. So Craig, I'm going to let you add to that story.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Clark. Just to compliment what he said, you're right. Dad grew up without a father. He was raised by a single mother, and he grew up quite fast. I'll never forget, he told me he had to work 2 and 3 jobs to help pay the rent and to help put food on the table for his mom. So it's just like so many of the Kendall students now, they have to work 2 and 3 jobs and go to college. And it did take Dad 5 years. And I might add, he's not very proud of it, but he barely graduated. He was like a CD student. He used to tell me that he would fall asleep in class because he had worked 2 and 3 jobs, working 16 hours straight and then going to class for 8 hours. Likewise, Mom was only able to go to school because of the scholarship that Clark had mentioned. During my youthful years, we actually lived in St. Louis and Chicago, and it was when I was in high school, we moved. Dad packed up Mom and the kids, and we moved back here to DC, and he started the business. And I'll never forget, he says, my goal is to put food on the table, pay the rent, and have enough money to pay for each of my sons to go to college. And he worked hard. He learned the power of working hard, being honest, being ethical. And in business, it's okay to make a profit, but really take care of the customers and take care of the employees. I need not tell you his hard work, his vision and mission of executing his plan worked out very well, much more than he had ever anticipated. And we grew up kind of in a simple neighborhood. We didn't do fancy vacations or fancy meals, no country clubs or anything like that. And as Clark said, once he realized it went way beyond his financial dreams, he sat his sons down and he said, this is how I'm going to help the community with University of Shady Grove and with the Kendall Scholarships. And he said, so you guys keep working hard, be honest, be ethical, build your own book of business, because here's what I'm doing. I will say this and that's what they did, Mom and Dad did the last 20 years. And what really floated their boat, remember this, college, Kendall Scholarship alumni, they would receive letters at Christmas and throughout the year from students that were recipients of the Kendall Scholarship Program. And those letters, they would read those letters to each of us sons, and it would be very emotional, bring tears to your eyes with regards to how appreciative and the opportunity that Cliff and Camille provided for those students. It was very, very touching. As we go through Mom and Dad's filing cabinets now, we're finding some of those old letters, and it's just very, very touching. So that concept of paying it forward, that Cliff and Camille Kendall have really touched many lives. And what really floats their boat is to hear students also paying it forward in life, whether it be through your church, through your family, through your work, through University of Maryland. That's that's the concept that they really wanted. And they really have touched many lives. I believe next year there'll be almost 100 scholarships related to the Kendall Scholarship Program on an annual basis between University of Maryland, Shady Grove, and even some up in University of Baltimore. And so there's quite an alumni of Kendall Scholarship alumni. So together, let's all pay it forward and make a difference in the world.
What an incredible story. I love, Clark, your reference to the multiplier effect, right? Giving people the opportunity to go out, and then they give people the opportunity, and they give people the opportunity, and so on and so on. It's a beautiful, beautiful vision, and so impactful. Gloria, could you tell us a little bit about how the Kendall scholarships, the Kendall Scholars program, what it means to students at USG, and this philosophy that Clark and Craig have described of paying it forward, how that's infused in this program as well.
Sure, I'll first start with a little bit of a background. I know there are numerous Kendall Scholarship programs within the university systems of Maryland and other institutions which have supported hundreds of students, as Craig mentioned earlier, for many years. We typically at USG receive over 1,400 scholarship applications each year, and the most notable ones are considered for this prestigious scholarship. Currently at USG, there are 38 undergraduate Kendall Scholars who are receiving full-time in-state tuition and fees scholarship. The general criteria to be eligible for this scholarship is the student, of course, must be enrolled at USG, have demonstrated financial need, show high potential for success, have the intention of remaining in Maryland upon graduation, and demonstrate prior service to others. In addition to the financial support, 34 scholars also participate in the USG Kendall Scholars Program. The USG Kendall Scholars Program was established in 2008. I can actually remember from selecting 6 students to now 34 in the program. The scholars are typically assigned an academic mentor throughout their time at USG, and once they reach their senior level, they are paired up with a professional mentor. In addition to the 34 scholars in the program, this semester, there are 21 academic and 19 professional mentors who are volunteering their time to mentor students. The mentors play a critical part to the program. They provide them with the support to become successful in all areas of life, from academic support through their professional transition to their careers. The USG Kendall Scholars Program alone at USG with the fall 2020 semester now has 130 students in the Kendall Alumni Network. Many of these scholars are also the first in their family to go to college. I believe that, of course, it is prestigious to be a Kendall Scholar. This is a program that Mr. and Mrs. Kendall wholeheartedly believed in. I remember from meeting them, hearing their stories still gives me chills up to this day, and how much they've done for this community and how they've helped people. This scholarship makes attaining a degree possible and gives students more time to focus on their academic goals and extracurricular activities. The Kendall Scholars, over the years that I've met, they've achieved success and continue to pay it forward. Alums have given back through scholarships and mentoring support. Through these efforts, the Kendall Alumni Scholarship was actually established in 2012 and supports a working student who demonstrates service to others. I just admire Mr. and Mrs. Kendall for all of the support and generosity that they provided for USG. Through this epitome of generosity, it's also inspired other donors to take on their footsteps. We currently have 2 donors, Marianne Mayhew and Paul and Lisa Getz, who've mirrored the scholarship program and currently serves as mentors for the USG Kendall Scholars Program.
That's great. Thank you, Gloria. Thanks so much. Juanita, Gloria spoke about the importance of mentoring. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit with us about what your mentoring experience was like. The mentor you worked with, what role did that play in being a Kendall Scholar, in maybe influencing you professionally, getting you through the program? Love to hear more about that aspect of your time as a Kendall Scholar.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I don't think I've ever heard the full story of Cliff and Camille Kendall, but now that I hear it, like it all kind of makes sense to me. When I first got the award and was Gloria told me like you got the scholarship, I was like, me? Like people like I couldn't understand what made my situation so special. But now that I heard their stories, it's like so there's so many connections with my own life, and I'm sure with a lot of other Kendall scholars, it's like the same thing, almost the same. Like my parents didn't go to school either, and neither of them got a degree. And when I graduated high school, they're like, "Well, you're gonna find the money to pay for it. If not, you're not going to college." And I'm like, "Okay." So the day that I had my interview, it was actually like a couple minutes late to my interview because I was running from work. It was a lunch break. I was running from my work to see Gloria and Patty Lopez at MC. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm late. Like I had to run from work and did my interview. Of course, I got the scholarship. And thankfully that was the only way that I was able to go to school. And I got through my 2 years at MC, and Gloria was there every step of the way, even after I got to USG. And she and my program director really became the people who guided me at MC and guided me at USG. And even while I was there, and fortunately I wasn't needing to pay for tuition, that doesn't mean that I wasn't trying to still pay it forward while I was at USG and at MC. And while most of the positions and things that I was a part of were somewhat paid positions, it was always nice to see that when I worked at CSEF, for example, it was me being able to give back to other students, even if it's just helping them get their student ID, or even if it's just helping them get a meeting with somebody or talking with them about their day. It's still a way for me to give back in a small way. But now that I have graduated, now that I look back at my time at USG and want to continue something like this, I do try to make whatever little amount of money that I have to put it into the alumni fund, make sure I'm communicating with those alums and the scholars around. I'm not sure that Towson has the most well-rounded council or alums. I'm not entirely sure, but I do make my efforts in order to communicate with the current students at Towson and making sure that they at least know that they have me to come back and ask questions or any step of the process. So it their envision of paying it forward and making sure that you're kind of there to help navigate people. It's not financially, but I think emotionally, I have done my part as a Kendall scholar and a Kendall alum to pay it forward and give back whatever I can, whatever little ounce of time that I have. So yeah, the mentor program really did help me again because it really laid the stepping stones for me from my transition to MC to USG. And while it was at USG, it was like pretty seamless. And then even there, it was like I knew who I had to go to. I knew who I could talk to. I knew who had my back and who was there for me to answer any questions, to feel like it was a non-judgment zone that I could come to with any type of concern and really feel like I could get some kind of guidance, either if it was professionally, emotionally, with school, like again, in the job. Either way, it was somebody who was able to help and give me that guidance. So I would love to continue that in some way, shape, or form. And I'm hoping that I'm doing Cliff and Camille proud with what I've done. And that's all I can say, because it's like my parents, like I felt like I met my grandparents every time I had dinner with them. And I don't have the closest relationship with my own grandparents. So to feel their presence and their sense of the love that they always like put on everyone and always showed everyone whenever they would have dinner with them or you would see them, it was like, it filled my little heart with so much joy, because it was like, it's like, you know my story, but you have so many other people, but you know me and you love me and you're proud of me. So it made me feel really good being at USG and being fortunate enough to receive their scholarship.
Wow, Juanita, it's a beautiful story and so incredible to see how you're embracing that paying it forward in your own life as well. Very cool. Clark, could you talk a little bit about I know the mentoring program means you've been involved in the mentoring program and means a lot to you. Could you talk a little bit about that, the importance of the mentoring piece of the vision of the Kendall Scholars and of your parents, what it means to you, and how you'd like to see it grow?
Well, I think I've done it 6-7 years now as far as being a mentor. It is great to hear stories like we just heard as far as the difficulty of being the first student, to be the first student to go to college within their families. And that is not anything different than what Cliff and Camille Kendall went through. And the fact, people have to work hard, through college. And we all understand that. And quite frankly, we see it time and time again of the business leaders and leaders in our communities are the people who had to work from a very hard age, and they have difficulty, and it's the failures that make you successful. So I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people, if no one in your family went to college before, they see it as a scary factor, but it's very doable. It's, I personally believe 98% of the people intellectually are within the same bandwidth. There are 1 or 2% really smart, 1 or 2% are really dumb, but anybody can get through college with hard work. And I see that time and time again. I think for people to be scholars or to be mentors, I think it's a key issue. Now, of course, for Craig and I, our parents were our mentors and they helped us. And Dad did impose upon us to be givers and to give back. And I always like to say when I first graduated from college, I ended up volunteering, to be a leader at my church, and sure enough, to run the youth program. And sure enough, another lady who was a leader ended up being my wife. And, we had, 4 great children from that. And she's still married to me. I call her my favorite social worker, favorite saint, the fact she's married to me. But also, as I've gone through, to be the Boy Scout leader, to be the Young Life leader, to be the basketball coach. I mean, the opportunity and the times that children have stopped me in the store and said, thanks for being my coach. We had a great time on the basketball court. We had a great time camping. And I think, to become a mentor, and even the mentors also, the mentees, when I see them around town, like, thank you for scrubbing my resume. I'm working with my mentee right now. We're working on his resume. And he's from, Vietnam. And I says, that's unique. You got a unique story that we got to bring out in your resume. And he has traveled extensively, not by his choice, but, to highlight, your attributes and how he could be a very desirable potential employee. And he's getting ready to, to move on from that. And I know, Craig, you've also have a website that you're working on for people to share some of these stories.
Yes, you're correct. It's it's www.Kendall Scholarships Alumni. Maybe it's Kendall Scholarship Alumni.com. Just to add on, again, you talk about that concept of paying it forward. That's the best way you can repay Cliff and Camille Kendall, is to truly pay it forward. And just like Clark's saying, and Clark many times has mentioned, as you give, you really do get a joy out of that, whether it be with JC's, with the Chamber of Commerce, whether it be with being a basketball coach. I know Clark and I both were basketball coaches. We may not have had winning teams, but we sure had a lot of fun. And I can tell you, you are of influence to those players out there, those younger players in life. And that's what really floated Cliff and Camille's boat. So that's the best way of paying it forward.
Thanks. Gloria, could you talk a little bit about the importance of connecting with the scholars? I know Cliff and Camille always spent time with the students. We've heard Juanita talking about how important that relationship was. From your perspective in the center, what you see, what does that connection do for the students or has done for the students, and how it's influenced the way they've pursued their studies, perhaps?
Sure. I mean, I believe that the impact has been so tremendous. I remember actually Juanita performed at International Night, and then I see Clark and Mrs. Kendall coming in. And, you know, I'm telling Juanita, look who's here. I mean, it was such a joy, you know, and I see it with the relationship that's been built between the scholars and the family over the years. It's just been so tremendous. I remember there's also one scholar over the years, and Craig and Clark, you might remember him, John Arcilla. The famous story of Mr. Kendall, where, you know, one day he called Mr. Kendall after he got his job, and he wanted to take him out to eat. And Mr. Kendall thought, and of course there's been variations of the story. I wonder what he needs. Maybe he needs more money to go to graduate school. But it turned out, you know, John wanted to take Mr. Kendall out on his first paycheck because to show him that, look, I've made it. And, you know, I just want to thank you so much for the scholarship and this for opportunity that I've received. And it's great. And the mentoring aspect also, in addition to connecting with the families, the mentors have been tremendous. I've had a mentor at one point, actually, you know, they haven't heard from their scholars. So, you know, it's not the norm. So they'll contact me, and, you know, I'll try to bring them together to make sure that they're connected. It's just so tremendous. I've had one good story I can remember. Hopefully they'll tune in. Tom Murphy and Jennifer Willis. That, you know, bond from when she left to, you know, when she graduated, and then to now being in the professional world up to today, those connections are still together. They're still contacting each other for support. So it's just a full circle, and it's just been so tremendous to see that connection come to fruition.
That's great. Thank you so much, Gloria. Juanita, I'm going to let you have the last word here. You're a recent graduate. You worked really hard, and you've got a great career ahead of you. You've talked a little bit about the role, the mentoring role you see yourself playing as well. What advice do you have, you know, with this experience as a Kendall Scholar, with the experience of, you know, knowing and working with the Kendall family, of being a USG student? What kind of advice do you have for up and coming students who are in similar kind of circumstances and similar challenges, maybe first generation, you know, tackling, you know, so aspiring to get a degree, but knowing that there's a lot of challenges? What advice, what kind of guidance would you give them?
Just to remember that there's always someone to help you. At some point, we were all in the same place. We were all thinking the same thing. We were all wondering, where am I going to pay this from? What can I do? How can I find it? Everyone is there to help. No one is getting a paycheck because they're not working. They're there to answer any of your questions. And everyone, especially at USG, I can say that for a fact, has the student in mind, and has the student in their hearts, and has the student in their decisions. So everyone is always there to help. It just takes a phone call, an email, a personal invite to something, a Zoom call at this point, to ask for help, to say, hey, I need this. Can you help me, or can you show me where to find it? And anyone, I feel, in the world is probably willing to help you, just so, especially if you have a moving story like this, or you feel like you are in need, especially when you show that you are driven, people are willing to help you. If you show that you're passionate about something, people are willing to help you. So that's the most important thing I can tell anybody. And that's why I always tell everyone, people are there to help. You just got to reach out.
What a great way to end this. I want to give tremendous thanks to Craig, Clark, Gloria, Juanita for your time tonight to share this incredible story of Camille and Clark Kendall and the incredible legacy that has been built here at USG, woven in through our physical infrastructure, but especially through the hearts and minds of the students who have benefited so much and who will continue on and share that story on and on. So I'm grateful to all of you for your time tonight. This has been a delight to learn more about the Kendall family and the impact on USG and its students. So thank you all.
Well,
Take
thank
care.
you, Dr.
Thank
Ann.
you.
And let's all pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
All right, keep up the good work.
Okay.